Hey guys, it's Mr. Smith here again. I know it's our last week of school. We have this lesson and we have one more math lesson to get through before you all can get to your summer break. Really enjoy and appreciate all the hard work that you guys have been putting in, working on these Schoology assignments. Today we're going to look at median and interquartile range. So this is Unit 8, Lesson 13 and 15. Our learning targets are, I can find the median for a set of data, I can say what the median represents, and what it tells us in a given context. I can use the interquartile range or IQR to describe the spread of data. When given a list of data values or a dot plot, I can find the quartiles and interquartile range or IQR for data. You're going to see this IQR typically when we're looking for interquartile range. It's not always written out in that long word. Alright, on your warm-up it said calculate the mean number of baskets each player made. So we have 12 different days worth of baskets that Elena, Jada, and Lynn have made. What you need to do is you need to add up the number of shots they made. So for Elena, it's 60, Jada is 60, and Lynn is 60. Now, their average, or mean, is where we take the total amount after we've added them up, and we divide them by the number, how many numbers you have here. So there's 12 days, so you have 12 numbers, so 60 divided by 12 is 5, and it's the same for Jada and Lynn. Now, the other question you had was, what do you notice about this? And looking at this, because most of Lynn's data is right around that number 5, right around the average or the mean. She was the most consistent shooter. When we look at Jada's got a couple of what we call outliers, numbers that are further away from that middle, that mean, or that average. So she was a little less consistent than Lynn. Although she made more on this day, the consistency was a little less. Elena was the least consistent because she has one day where she only made 1 basket and another day where she made 9 out of 10 baskets. And then she has another day where she only made 2 out of 10. So she was a little less consistent. There were some days that were better than others for Elena. So today we're going to be looking at another way to find what we call the measure of center. So mean is where you add them all up and you divide by however many numbers you have. Median is another one, and median we're looking for the middle of the data set. That's what we're looking at when we think of median, right in the middle. Think of when you're driving down or riding down Route 13 with your family, the road that's out by the McDonald's and Walmart. There's that strip of grass in the middle that's called the median. So that's the middle. Before we can find the middle of data set, we have to put it in order from least to greatest. So Tyler had asked 10 students in his class how many siblings they have. And this is their answers, so how many siblings they have. There are some that have quite a few siblings and some that have none. So we need to sort this data from least to greatest. So for every 0, you start with your smallest number. And our smallest number here is 0, and we have 3 zeros, so you have to list all 3 zeros. You can't just put 1, you have to list them all. The same for 1s. You have to list all 3 1s. And you have to list both 2s. And then you have your 1 7 and your 1 10. Now, to find the middle of this data set, you can start by crossing off the first number and the last number, and you're just going to alternate as you work through this data set until you get down to either 1 or 2 numbers. In this instance, we got down to 2 numbers. So to find the median, this one's a little easier, but there's some that can be a little bit more difficult because they're not the same number. So to find your median, you're going to take those 2 numbers and add them up and get your sum. This happens to be 2. And then you're going to take your sum and you're going to divide it by 2 because you have 2 numbers. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, so the median is 1. And you're going to have a question similar to this that in some of your activities where it says, is the median a good measure of a typical number of siblings for this group? Because most of the students answered between 0 to 2, 1 is a good measure, a good measure for the typical number of siblings for these 10 students. Now, I know you guys are going to say, well, there's some that have 7 and one that has 10. So those are what we call outliers. Those are not typical to what everybody else has said. Now, when we're looking for quartiles, this word quartile, look at the first part, Q-U-A-R-T, quart. That's how we start off with quarter. So we're going to look at fourths of this data. Now, we're going to go through and show you how to find the quartiles of this data. Looking at this, it says here are the ranges of the people at one party listed from least to greatest. So they range from 7 to 42. So the first thing you need to do is find the median of the data set and label it the 50th percentile. So if you were to follow like we did in the last example and find the median, you would find that it falls right here with these two 20s. And like we said in the previous one, you take the two 20s, add them together, you get 40 divided by 2, and you get 20. And we label this the 50th percentile. Then we need to find the middle value of the lower half of the data. So it's just like finding the median, you just are using the lower part of the data. So that's going to fall right here between the 10 and we're going to have 10 and 11 if you were to cross numbers off. So 10 plus 11 is 21, divided by 2 is 10.5. And that's the 25th percentile. Then we need to find the middle value of the upper half of the data. That's going to fall right here with 28 and 30. So 28 plus 30 is 58, divided by 2 is 29. And we're labeling this the 75th percentile. Now, when we look at this data, once we find the quartiles, we can write this 5-number summary for the data set. You're going to be asked to do this on some of the problems that you have coming up, some of the activities you have coming up. So the first thing, when you're writing a 5-number summary, remember it's got to have 5 different numbers, we start with the minimum. So the minimum is the smallest number in the data set. So once you put them in order from least to greatest, it's the one on the left side. Before we get to that, 25th percentile is what we call the quartile 1. The median or 50th percentile is quartile 2, and the 75th percentile is quartile 3. This will help us writing this 5-number data set, 5-number summary for the data set. So the minimum is going to be 7, because it's the smallest possible number. Quartile 1, or Q1, is going to be 10.5. Quartile 2 is 20, and quartile 3 is 29. Now, we also have to have the maximum, which is the largest number in the data set. So when you have them in order from least to greatest, it's the very last number on the right, which is 42. Now, to find the interquartile range, you're just going to take your quartile 3 and your quartile 1, and you're going to subtract those to find your interquartile range. So, for us, it's 29 minus 10.5, which is 18.5. So, looking at this 18.5, it's a larger number, which means that our data is spread out more. If that interquartile range is a smaller number, that means the data is less spread out and there's more of the same answers. So think of this party was probably like a big family get-together type party, because you have, some kids at 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then you have some adults at, 42, 38, 35, 33. If you were looking at a party of just you and your friends, and looking at your ages, the interquartile range for your ages are going to be much smaller because you all are similar in age. your ages aren't as spread out as these are. So, your next activities. You have a travel time discussion to do. Finding the median Desmos. You're going to create a data set discussion. You're going to have a create a data set discussion. So you're going to create your own data set based on some parameters, and you're going to have a discussion about that. A bus ride length activity. You're going to have two data sets, A and B, and there's going to be a discussion based on those. A word value activity. A median and interquartile range Desmos. A cooldown on how far can you throw, and an honors activity. I know it looks like a lot, but there's a lot of these that are just one problem. So it shouldn't take you a terribly long amount of time to do this. Now, you can still contact us through Zoom. You can send us links through school or emails through Schoology. Make sure that, if you guys, we would love for you guys to stop by, say hi, say bye, enjoy your summer. Just kind of see you one last time before summer ends, or before school ends and summer starts. If you don't get on here and say hi or whatever, please make sure you come by and see us next year, because we would be happy to see you guys when we start back school in the fall. We've missed you and would love to say, just say hi and see you guys again. Anyway, you guys hope you guys do well and enjoy your summer. Talk to you guys later. Bye.